cloud-based applications. They are quickly deployed. The payment models for this are relatively simple, in some form of pay-per-use kind of a model kind of exists there. So if that is the opportunity in front of us, right? And if the opportunity in front of us is for literally hundreds and thousands of SaaS applications that will be built, they'll be put up on the internet, they'll be sold without on-the-ground sales force. They'll be sold remotely through the web, not to consumers, but as I said, to corporate environments, to businesses, to small, medium, large businesses. If that is the opportunity that we are chasing, then the question is, what is the fast-track method of building such companies out or building such applications out, right? And here I would like to share with you four segments or four ideas and spend a little time kind of going through all the four. So the first and foremost is, how do you find and contact the market? And the important point here is, I purposely leave it a little vague, but really for $10 ideas, right? And these could be $10 a user a year, and there are applications like that. You have some Indian companies like Important, for example, in Bombay, is disrupting the HRIS market by offering full-fledged application, which is probably more in the range of, $7-8 a user a year, right? And think of it, that's a very, very aggressive price point. And once you start selling at that price point in India, you can play a whole disruptive role in other markets as well. So we'll come back and talk about this idea a little bit more. Second is that once you can identify an opportunity like this, can you quickly turn it into a sellable idea? And that requires a way to really develop your idea in a way that engages prospective customers right from the beginning. So, I call that extracting the idea. It's not my term, and I'm going to spend a little more time sharing with you where it comes from and where you can go and read more about it in a few minutes. So, stay with me. We'll come back and talk about this. And then, of course, is the building the SaaS solution. And this is one topic I spend least time on because, here in India, we're very good at building the software. We are good techies, but we are not so good in the other aspects, which is product management and selling aspects. And so I focus more on the last point then, which is, once you do get your SaaS solution in place, then how do you get it out in the market and kind of make it successful. So let's spend a little time talking about all these ideas. So why $10 ideas? First of all, what's this about $10 ideas that I'm talking about? Now, before I answer that question and I give you an example, I want to tell you about a major shift that is taking place in the corporate environment. And the shift is that corporate applications are no longer being bought only by CIOs. And in fact, I posed this question, who is making these buying decisions to Piyush Singh? You see his bio up there. He's a well-regarded CIO in the US. And I posed this question to him. And, he pointed me to this iPad app page. And he said, look, I'm in the insurance business. Today, if I go there and look for corporate insurance applications, so these are not consumer insurance applications, I find 443 applications out there, right? And he said, you know what, this is a trick question. I wonder how many of them were there 3 years ago. Now, if you remember, iPad was launched only in the May time frame of 2010. So wasn't there, strictly speaking, 3 years ago, right? So you are at a point where in 2.5 years, suddenly you have a situation where number of insurance applications, just the way I talk to you, they're not umbrella applications, they are modular applications that solve the quote to cash kind of a problem that would have been earlier solved by one application is now being solved by a cluster of applications. You know, that environment exists today. That has come about, and that is out there even today. And so when you have these kind of applications, who are buying them? Now, these are the people who are buying them. These are people who are not in the IT department. They're part of the line of business. They're functional heads or running their own business units. And an example of that, you should just take marketing as an example. The fastest growing role within marketing is a role called the marketing technologist. And the marketing technologist, who dotted line reports into the CIO's organization, but solid line reports into the CMO organization, is the one making decisions about what marketing applications and technologies to buy. And in their view of the world, you know, in the picture that you see on the bottom left, you know, they see themselves as being about speed, about agility, about making a marketing impact, you know, and bringing differentiated applications to the workplace. So these are the people that there are new types of buyers that have emerged. These are very unconventional buyers. So if we have spent the last 10, 15 years, you know, trying to sell into the CIO environment, just keep in mind, you know, that world is changing very, very quickly. And that's an opportunity. That's a wonderful opportunity for new players to come in and take advantage of. And indeed, that is what is happening. So this is a good place to talk about the $10 story again. Because if you go back in time, and not too long ago, you know, you would have bought a CRM solution at $200 a seat, effectively $200 a seat. And if you are IBM, you know, which has literally a 100-year history of selling, right? Where each sales executive carries a multi-million-dollar target. You would say $200 a month per salesperson is not bad. I mean, I can afford to spend $2,400 on my salesperson who probably carries at a minimum of $4 million target. And you know, when I do that, I get a custom CRM application for my team, which is able to take advantage of my long history of good practices around selling. So it makes a lot of sense. There is a market, therefore, for Siebel type implementations, and you know, that market actually is still around. It continues to grow. But then Salesforce came around and they said, you know what, I give you something which is somewhat similar for $60 a seat. And you know the story, Salesforce has done very well in that area. And they competed with Siebel at the edges, but what they did was open up a whole new market underneath Siebel, because they were able to take their solution to people who could not even conceive of affording that $200 solution, but could definitely think of buying the $60 solution. And what is our Chennai-based company done? Our Chennai-based company went out and said, you know what, I have another CRM solution, and that is actually meant for smaller businesses. You know, those businesses who cannot even afford $60. I have something that I've thought through, built from ground up, and that's a solution that I'll offer to you at $12 a seat, right? And you know what? You know about Zoho, I'm sure. You know they're doing very well. They have a lock-in in this part of the market, the $10, $12 per seat market. So this phenomenon of opening up of this bottom tier is what we are talking about. This is happening even inside big companies. That is the big point that I want to make for you. It is, of course, opening up opportunities to sell these kind of applications, $10 applications, to smaller businesses, to the SMBs worldwide. That opportunity is a very big opportunity by itself. But layered on top of that is another opportunity where you can actually go out and sell these $10 a seat applications, even inside big companies, big enterprises. And that is something which is very important. So the question then is, how do you find out about these opportunities? How do you put your hands around the ideas that could be commercialized? And that is where I would say this whole thinking about lean startups, about customer discovery, have become very important. And the backstory there, of course, is that in the last 5 years, there is so much new learning that has taken place about how to handle the early stages of the company much better. The iterative portion where you are learning, engaging with the market, not necessarily with the product yet built out, very often with the product not yet built out, right? Where it is an idea in your head, and that is something that you are trying out. And that idea has taken root in a very big way. And as it has taken root, more discipline has emerged in making it happen. And so these are some of the questions, for example, you could start asking people to be able to extract that idea that you could commercialize. Now, I could talk a lot about this, but I think the beauty of this whole new wave of sharing that is there is that you can actually go to the source and learn about it. And I would strongly encourage you to check out Dane's videos where he talks about idea extraction. And what is more, he doesn't talk about it. He lets you over here watch the process at work where people have done idea extractions and have successfully turned them into businesses. And you have the privilege of being able to listen in on that process and see how they had done it. So this is something, which is very, very amazing and interesting. This is something we here in India need to focus more on, because before we build, is this exercise that needs to happen. And only once we have wrapped our hands around the problem, we've wrapped our around the pain, the way we are going to resolve that pain, and validated that this is a sellable proposition, then only we should go out and build it out, right? Building it before all of that is done is no longer considered to be the right way to proceed forward. And again, this has been happening. I mean, it's not that it's not been happening. We have our own success stories where people have somehow stumbled into this. There is this success story about Apartment Adda where Venkat, stumbled into this idea because he happened to buy an apartment, discovered that his building society, the new apartment society, didn't have a good solution, hacked it together, and now, of course, has managed to turn it into a very viable business. This happened with Greytip as well, where again, they're not selling a $10 business, but they're selling literally a 10 rupee business, where they're doing payroll processing for you for 10 rupees per employee per month, right? So again, people have stumbled into this. What is different now is that this whole process is becoming a science. So instead of stumbling around, taking a lot of time to discover that idea, you can accelerate the whole process if you embrace a disciplined approach to making it happen. And I would strongly encourage you to do that. As I said, I'm not going to talk a lot about building the SaaS solution, so which is why you would notice, some of you would notice that I don't even have that bullet highlighted. I'm not talking about that because that's an area which many of you understand very, very well, and that's not where the pain is there in the system. So instead, I want to talk to you a little bit about selling the SaaS solution, right? Now, selling the SaaS solution is really all about doing it on the net. So if you got to do it on the net, obviously the first place you start is with your landing page, right? And I show you an example here of a landing page of an Indian company, Orangescape, out of Chennai again. And I don't know why I have only Chennai examples today. This is the second one, Zoho and Orangescape that I mentioned. But they recently launched a product on the web called Kissflow. So if you go to Kissflow's page, this is what you will see. It's a relatively simple page. You will see that you can take it for a walk and try it out, by signing up for it for free, right? There isn't any charge for doing that. And of course, once you start using it, they'll encourage you to upgrade to a premium version. So then you can launch it, right? Once your landing page is ready, then of course you have to do a launch. In this case, and not everybody manages to do this, but in this case, they were the only non-Google product that was launched at Google I/O in late June 2012, right? You know, as you may remember, Google launched a lot of stuff at Google I/O this year. So the only non-Google company that got a slot to launch something there, formally launch something there, is not a California-based company, not a Boston-based company, but an Indian company based out of India, you know, which yet doesn't have an office, you know, its own office in the US. So they launched it there, and then of course they did a lot of work to drive traffic, to encourage people to try this application out. And today, we are talking about October, June to October, they are already the #1 application in their category on the Google Apps Marketplace. So just think of it, right? And so it is possible. And Indian companies are doing it today. So my fundamental point that I would like to make to you here is that there is a new paradigm that is emerging. And this new paradigm that is emerging is really about finding small application ideas that would work in the enterprise environment. Not the consumer environment alone. I know that's a very big opportunity by itself. We can talk about it another day. But in the enterprise environment, I want you, you know, in this talk to focus a little bit on the enterprise environment. And there are lots of such ideas that you can, with discipline, extract them, build them, and sell them in the global marketplace. And as an Indian company, you can do it as successfully as if you were based anywhere else in the world. So this is the mega opportunity that is in front of us. Now, these kind of opportunities, these kind of issues is what we will be talking about at the NASSCOM Product Conclave. And I want to, this is not a commercial for the NASSCOM Product Conclave.